What is up, guys? In this video I wanted to show you how you can build your own AI assistant that you'll be able to chat directly in Telegram. It will be able to execute actions on your behalf like replying to your emails, managing your Notion, creating presentations, automatically posting stuff on social media, and basically everything that can be done through Make.com. For those who don't know me, my name is Arthur. I'm a senior software engineer. I've built many AI projects in the past, and I have my own studio where me and my team are developing custom solutions like this. So if you'd like to reach out, follow the link in the description. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So in order to create our own AI agent, we first have to have an account on Make.com. So you'll need to create one if you don't have one yet. And they added this new tab called AI Agents. So this AI Agents tab is basically a place where you can create your own GPT that'll be able to trigger certain functions or flows. So I'll try to show you the step-by-step system on how it'll work. So in reality, you can actually interact with your AI agent directly through WhatsApp, Slack, maybe email. But just for the sake of this video, we are using Telegram. But I just wanted to mention that we are actually flexible on this. So to get started, I'd like us to go ahead and create our own bot on Telegram, since this bot will be our own AI assistant where we'll be able to chat with our AI agent. To do that, you'll have to go to the Telegram and find the bot fodder on Telegram. So once you found the bot fodder, it's a bot basically that helps you create bots. All you have to do is go to the menu or /new bot, and it'll prompt you to create a new bot. So let's create one together. What will be the name of our bot? We'll say AI assistant demo. Now we'll have to create a username, so it has to end with a bot or _bot. So we'll try something like AI assistant demo. So this one will most likely be reserved, but we can try. So we'll add something like YouTube. Now we've created our own bot that can be accessible through this link. And this is our secret API key basically. So with that key, anyone can manage your bot and how it'll be replying to others. So what we want to do is basically copy this key and go back to the Make.com, and here in the connections tab, you'll be able to see all of your connections. But to get started, we'll go ahead and create our own flow. So to do that, you'll go scenarios, create a new scenario. So here you'll be able to see these bubbles basically where you can pre-select which service or tool you want to interact with. So in our example, that is Telegram. So we'll go ahead and find Telegram bot here. What we want to do is to find a field that's called watch update. So basically with that field, we'll be able to run an agent or a system that'll be able to reply or get text on behalf of our bot. So basically whenever somebody texts us on our Telegram bot, it will trigger our scenario here. So we'll go ahead and choose this one, watch updates. And here you have to select which webhook to trigger. So let's click add a new hook. I'll say Telegram AI YouTube demo. And here in the connection, you're probably not going to have a single connection here. Or if you already have, you just go ahead and click add. And here you call your Telegram connection. So that'll be the name of your bot. So this is just for you, so you know the difference between your connections in the future. So I'll call AI demo YouTube bot. And here in the token field is basically where you paste this thing that bot fodder gave you, which is the secret API key. So you insert here, you click save. It might take a couple of seconds to actually integrate. Then you go ahead and click save. So to get started, we can actually already test our bot and see if we can receive a message when somebody texts to our Telegram. I'll go ahead and click run once. That'll help me debug the values that will come to the bubble here. So I'll click run once. And as you will see the spinner, basically that means that it is watching for updates or looking for any messages that will be sent right now. Let's go ahead and on our Telegram, we'll find this bot here. And in our bot, we'll go ahead and click start. Actually, that should be enough as a first message already. So as you can see that we executed this bubble. In the output, we received a message. We can see chat, and we'll find the data about the user who texted us. So what we want to do next is basically, now that we verified that it actually works, we want to go ahead and come back to the AI agents tab. So let's hit save here and save our scenario, even though it is not complete at all. So now if we go to AI agents, here we go ahead and click create a new agent. You will have to connect your OpenAI account for this. So I already have this, but if you don't, you just quickly click add, connection type, choose the AI. So they actually have multiple providers that you can choose from. And then you'll just insert the API key. So what will be the agent name? So I'll say YouTube AI demo. So here we'll choose which AI model it'll be using. So based on the model, it'll be either faster, slower, more expensive, smarter, and so on. So what we can do is to go ahead and try GPT-4o1 mini. It'll be pretty fast and cheap model. This is basically the description to the bot or the AI system on what is the purpose of it and how it should act when people talk to it. So I'll say something like, you are a helpful agent that helps people execute daily work tasks. Go ahead and click save. Now that we have the system prompt, we can always edit it later. But here, what's interesting is the system tools. So system tools is basically functions that can be triggered once we talk to the AI. The cool part about this is that those tools or those functions are basically its own independent scenarios on Make. So for example, I already pre-built a quick scenario where we take data from an API call and put it to the Google spreadsheet. So I can go ahead and click add, and here it'll be able to find the scenarios that you can use. So don't worry, in this video we'll add one more scenario from scratch, but just for the sake of the experiment. So basically we have webhook, calls the Google spreadsheet and replies with some JSON data. And once you select that, all you have to do is just click add. So you'll have that scenario. Since I already pre-configured this in another place, but here you'll have to add a description. So basically this description is for AI to understand when to call this flow or when to call this scenario. So you simply provide a basic description on what is it for and when to call it. We'll hit save. Now we should be ready to have our agent set up. Let's go ahead and try to connect it to our Telegram. So we'll go back to our scenarios. Here's our scenario that we created. That is still not fully working, but is already integrated with Telegram. So what we want to do is to add a bubble and say that we'll integrate this with our AI. So we'll put make AI in the search. We want to find make AI agents. So you click on this, only one action available, run an agent. And here you should be able to find your agent that we just created. So this is the one that we just created. It already found the tools that we added. We'll go through the settings together. So thread ID, as described here, basically whenever you talk with AI on, let's say, OpenAI, it generates a thread and generates basically a unique ID. So this is just for AI to keep the conversational history with the user so it can actually know what you were talking about like 2 minutes ago. And before, you would have to handle this on your own and pass the whole conversation every single time, but companies like OpenAI are now handling this for you. So they just assign a thread ID to every single thread they start. So if we do not provide this thread ID, what will happen is that every single time we talk with our AI, it will think it is a new conversation and it will not have any context on what you were talking about just a second ago. So in this video, we'll also address this and we'll try to work with the database that is built in the Make. Basically, as the goal of this video, we'll want to have an agent where you'll be able to talk with AI and have actually a smart history. So it'll know what you were talking about, and maybe we'll add some comment where you say, start a new chat, and it'll start a new conversation. So additional system instructions are pretty self-explanatory if you want some extra information for your AI agent. But basically, here's what is interesting. So we'll have to find the messages array here, and we'll click add an item. And here we can select which message should go here. So what it'll do is once you click here, you should be able to find data from Telegram that you can reuse. When I'm seeing this variable names here, I actually see some data on the right side, and that is because we did this run once, send the message, and it basically used the last message data. This is what debugging is for basically, because sometimes having these names or variables can be confusing. So what we want is basically pass a message. So we go message, chat, and here we should be able to find here text field actually. So this text field is basically what users send us. So since we just started the conversation, it is /start, but later on it'll be something like hello or another request. So we select this text field, then we click save. So this bubble will basically analyze what to reply to user with AI brain, and if it is something where we want to add data to the spreadsheet, it'll call another scenario that'll trigger this for us. So I'll show you this scenario in a second as well. But before we do that, let's finish our flow here. So we'll click Telegram bot, send a text reply. Now we need chat ID, basically who to send a reply to. So here we can find under chat ID, and text is basically what should we reply. This time we'll select the data not from the Telegram but from the make AI agent, and here is simply response. So there are additional settings like parse mode, like HTML. Thread ID is Telegram thread ID if you want the bot to kind of like actually reply, select the message and send a reply to, or it's a plain message. So I think plain message is fine. Disable notification, disable link previews. I think it's all fine. Let's click save. And now what we want to do is to test this again. So I'll go ahead and click run once. For this, we'll start with something very basic like hello. And as we can see, it actually replied to us, so it already works. And here we can analyze the logs. We received a message, AI analyzed something, it started the thread, so this is the response, and we were able to pass this response. So basically we already have a working AI agent. The only problem is it doesn't have a history. So whenever I'll say like, my name is this, and then it'll say, okay, nice to meet you. And then I'll ask it, what is my name? It'll not remember since it doesn't have any history yet. Since every single time we'll be sending a new message here in this bubble, since we're not providing the thread ID, it will be creating a new thread every single time. So we'll fix this, but this is just so you keep this in mind. Meanwhile, a sip of tea. All right, so remember how we've connected one scenario to it, where I was saying that we can now add data to Google Sheets. So let me show you this scenario real fast. Oh yeah, we want to save changes. So here I have this very basic scenario called add data to Google Sheet. So how it works is that we have a webhook. Once this webhook is being called, we call Google Sheet. In the Google Sheet, we add values like name, email, phone, and age. And then in the webhook response, we basically just respond with the spreadsheet ID and the sheet link. So this is my spreadsheet that is being used there. So since it doesn't have a history, but it should still be able to execute spreadsheet actions, so we can go ahead and test this. Our AI agent here, it has access to this flow, the one that I just showed you a second ago. In the description, we say, call this when the user says he wants to add data to a spreadsheet. It should be smart enough to figure out which data is being used there without me describing it. So let's go ahead and test this. Can you add a data that is mock data to the spreadsheet? And later, show me the link. Okay, but before I send this, we should activate our scenario since it's turned off. Go ahead and click run once. Let's send this message. So we can see that it was executing. Even gave us the spreadsheet link as we asked it to. So let's double check and boom, we have this data. So I'll add the column name. But yeah, we have this data filled for us by AI. It was pretty fast. It was able to execute our external scenario just by this command. So this kind of gives you the idea of what this AI assistant tab is for. It's basically where you can list all of the scenarios that you have and explain to AI when to call which one. So as the goal of this video, what we want to do is just take it next level where we'll have a smart assistant directly with Telegram, and it'll not just be able to execute actions for us, but to have the conversation history so it can have a chain of thought basically. Because right now, if I'm gonna go ahead and test again, and I'll ask, what was the last thing I asked you? So it'll not know. And that is because every single time, as I mentioned, it starts the new thread ID. The next step that we want to do is to be able to hold the thread ID history. So what we want to do in order to store a conversation is once we talk to AI, you saw that it was able to generate us thread IDs. And here in between, before we reply to our Telegram, what I want to do is I'll go ahead and click an in-between module. And in our in-between module, what I want to do is to find data store. We want to store it in our make database, so we'll go ahead and click add or replace record. Okay, and here it'll say choose a database. So we'll create one for this video. So we'll call it TG YouTube AI demo. Choose data structure. So I'll go ahead and add a new structure. Let's call it YouTube AI demo agents structure. DB. And here in the specification, basically we want to add which fields are we gonna store. I think we're going to store two fields. The one field is the thread ID for AI. So basically this is something that is stored on the OpenAI servers. So this is for us to be able to hold the chain of conversation. Thread ID type. We can keep it text. Required yes or no. I'll say yes. Let's add another one. The second one will be for our Telegram. In basic words, it's a user ID. So which user should we reply to? And what I want to do is just to store which users already talked with our AI. And if they did, we'll look for any AI conversations in the past with them. So that way we can make sure to only reply to our users. That'll be type text as well, required. I would say yes. So to simplify the things again, there are two things that we want to store. The user ID that we just talked to on Telegram and the AI thread ID that he was using in the past. So you'll understand in a second if you're still having hard times with understanding why we need these IDs. So we'll save those two things. Data store size, let's go with 3 megabytes, okay? In here, we can add a new record. For our thread ID, what I'll want to do is find the ID here, thread ID, boom. And Telegram thread ID, it's not really, as I mentioned, thread ID is chat ID more like. So we'll go ahead and save this. So those are the two fields that we need for this. We'll go ahead and click save. So now whenever somebody texts us on Telegram, we pass this message to AI. AI either executes an action or just determines what to reply. Once AI has a reply or executed the action, we basically store the chat ID and the thread ID in our data store, and then we would reply back to our Telegram user. Now, whenever somebody sends us a message, we'll just be able to store it in our DB, but here's how we can make it more advanced. We don't want to store this in DB every single time. We only want to store it the first time the user interacted with our app. We can see what's gonna happen if I save it now and just test. So I'll go ahead and click save. We'll go ahead and say run once. I'll say test. We should be able to find our data stored. So here we can go ahead and click more, data stores. So this is where our database is now being alive. And here in the database, we can go ahead and click browse. And boom, there we have it. So key is just the unique record ID for database, but this is what we actually stored. The thread ID is what AI will be used to identify conversation later. And thread ID is just the Telegram user ID. But now if I were to text the second time, like, hi, nothing happened. That is because we didn't click run once. So we would need to go back to our scenarios, and here, let's click run once. We can say use existing data, go back to our data stores. And so here we'll see that we stored the same Telegram user ID second time. Yes, this time it is a new thread ID, but the Telegram user ID is the same. That is fine, but we want to only execute this in the future if user asks to start a new thread. But until that, we'll be reusing the latest thread that the user had. So let's go ahead and delete this record for now. Okay, so let's go back to our scenarios. What we want to do now is to add a check if we already have data stored. So maybe it is not a new user and we want to continue the conversation. So this time it'll know what we were talking about. Okay, so Telegram, AI agents. What we want is in between, we'll add a module. So whenever somebody texts us before we call an AI agent, because the AI agent will require us a thread ID. So we'll go data store and we'll look for something like find a record or here, search records. We'll select our database and this is the filter. So we'll look for user, so Telegram ID equals 2. Here we'll pass our Telegram ID and hit save. So basically whenever somebody texts us now on Telegram, in our database, we'll be checking if that user exists in our database. Here, let's add one more module, add a module, check the existence of a record. It asks for this unique key, which is basically the first column in our database that is generated automatically every single time. So here we'll find a record. It should return us the key ID actually. So let's pass it here. So what we did basically is whenever somebody texts us on Telegram, we check if that Telegram user ID already interacted with us in the past in our database. If he did, we'll try to find the record ID. Then we pass this record key to a thing that called does the user exist for simplicity because it will return us true or false. So if he exists, if the record with this ID exists, we'll have this return us true. If he doesn't exist, it'll have us return false. So now here we can add a router. So let's add a module. It is called router. And basically now we'll have two flows. That one will be triggered if the user is new, and second one will be triggered if the user is not new and he wants to basically have the same conversation with that AI. Okay. Here on the filter, basically click on this icon and say set up a filter condition. If exist field equals to false. What we're saying, if we cannot find any records in database, that means the user didn't interact with us. So we call this flow. Same for this, we'll say set up a filter, exist equals to true. So if the user already interacted with our app, what we want to do is call the AI agent, but this time when we call the agent, so let's select our agent, we want to pass the thread ID. So since we were able to find a record for that user, we'll also be able to find the thread ID. So here we just find from record thread ID, we paste it here. Is there any additional setup? Yes, so the message, we'll pass a new message here. So the message is basically what user just texted us. Okay, save. And now when we'll be calling AI, it'll be calling all of the previous conversations for that thread ID. We want to reply back to our user, send a text message, and that message, so which user are we sending reply to? Telegram, and text is the new response from AI. So we can hit save. Let's go ahead and test our new system. So I'll go ahead and click run once. I'll say my name is Art. Nice to meet you. So now if I ask it what is my name, it should be able to keep the conversation. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click run once. What's my name? So as you can see, it worked this time. From now on, it'll have a memory of our whole conversations. What we want to do now is basically be able to start a new conversation fully with that AI. And to do that, we'll say something like, if the user tells us to stop, then we stop. So here's how we can do this. So let's add an instruction to our AI. So additional system instruction. Explain it with the plain text. If the user says something like start a new chat, then all you are allowed to reply is new chat. Follow this strictly. Only reply with this. Okay. And now we'll set up an extra filter basically. Let's add a router. And here we'll say set up a filter, condition, AI response. And here we'll say if AI response does not equal to new chat. This is basically what AI would reply to us if it is new chat. So we're saying whenever AI doesn't say new chat, then we execute normal response. If though AI tells us it is new chat, so let's set up a specific filter for this. Condition AI response equals to new chat. So whenever AI replies now for us with the new chat command, we would then here execute the logic that will clean up our conversation with the user and start a new thread. So to do that, we'll go ahead and say data store, maybe delete a record, choose a data store with the key. And here, when we found a record, we also have a key for the record where we store the user ID. Since we're only storing one record per user, we can use one key and we'll just delete the record of our thread. And once we delete it, we'll go ahead and reply back to our Telegram to the user. Let's use chat from the Telegram field in case it'll already be deleted from the database. And we'll say new chat started. Start by sending a new message. Instead of testing every single time run once, I'll go ahead and click immediately as data arrives. So this is basically our production setting. This is how we'll keep our bot alive 24/7. So let's switch this to on. Instead of clicking run once every single time, immediately. Yes. So now the bot should work every single time. So let's go ahead and do hello, what's my name? So you should keep the conversation going. Your name is Art. Okay, what is 2 + 2? What was the last question that I just asked? And what is my name? So as you can see, it perfectly follows the conversation thread. Let's try to say start a new chat, please. And now it started a new chat. So let's go ahead and try to say hello. So it looks like there might have been an error. Let's just double check what just happened. Let's click run once. And I'll say hi. So as you can see, it stops on the second bubble for some reason this time. I think it is trying to find a record, but since it cannot find a record, it kind of stops here. So maybe there's some setting. Okay, show advanced setting. Okay, here. Continue the execution of the route even if the module returns no result. Yes. So let's hit save. So basically what happened this time is that we say start a new chat and our command wasn't able to find a record for that user anymore and it was not able to execute. So it was a bug basically where every single new user would not be able to interact with the app, only those who had records in our database. So that is not correct. Let's hit save. And now that we adjusted the settings, it should work. Let's go back to our production mode. Let's hit run once. Hello. Okay, so this time we move to our third step. Okay, let's analyze the issues here. Missing key. All right, so we cannot find key here. We'll need to use something like a function that will be saying if there is no key, then use null or specific key, right? We can try to write our function here, or we can do something even more simple. We can ask their AI to do this for us. So we can say if key is empty, use null. So let's see if Makes AI can apply the magic for us here. If empty key, then use null. I think that looks fine. Let's hit apply. I have to clean up our old field here. Let's hit save. Let's hit run once. Wait for new data. Hi, it issued. Oh, I think that's because we actually have to use hard-coded key, like not null, but something like null as the word. So let's hit run once, wait for new data. So this time it figured out new user, it created a record, and it should reply to us. So let's switch to production mode. We're already there. We can say, what's my name? It should not know it. So it shows that there is a queue of 2 messages that it didn't follow. So I'll go ahead and delete all of them. Let's switch to production mode, save. What's my name? So I don't have your name. Since we started a new conversation, I'll say my name is Arthur. Now we can say, what's my name? Okay, it says it's Arthur. Now let's actually trigger our smart function from spreadsheets that we've created. Can you add me to the spreadsheets or other fields? Use some mock data. So let's see if it can do this for us now. So it said it did this. Okay, let's go and double check. So boom, as you can see, it added a record as we asked it. So that works nicely. So we can double check and say, what's my name? So my name is Arthur. Now if I'll say start the new chat started. Now I can say, hello, what's my name? It works perfectly fine. We were finally able to set up a system where we can chat with AI until we say start a new chat. It will have the conversational logic with us of our previous conversation, previous questions, and it can interact with us. So that's pretty cool. But what's cooler is that not just that we can access it through our Telegram 24/7 now, is that we can actually now teach this AI by just using this template here without even editing this template anymore. We can just basically teach our AI on what to do next. So for example, so far we were able to taught it to add data to our spreadsheets, but we can basically teach it to do new things or more things. So let me show you how to do this. So in scenarios, you can basically create a new scenario. And this new scenario would basically be everything that you can think of that you want your AI to now learn how to do. So maybe that's like getting a list of our Google documents. So we'll go ahead and say Google Docs, list documents. So we'll select where, choose a folder. So I have make tests, save, and the response, we basically want something like JSON, so webhook response, and in the body we'll pass information that we need for AI to know about our Google Docs. But before that, since we have multiple docs, I forgot we might want to actually add a module called array aggregator. So we'll select Google Docs, and here we'll have to select which fields we want to combine since there are multiple fields. So we'll say name, document ID, web view link, modified time, created time. I think that's enough information. And in the webhook now we'll say information from array, on demand. So let's go back to our AI agents. Let's click configure. And here we'll just basically now add our new scenario. So here we'll say add a description and we'll say call this when user asks for their Google Docs. And now since we described to AI when to call the scenario, we can simply just add this as new knowledge or a new function. Let's hit add, hit save. And now we no longer need to edit anything because basically now when we ask our Telegram bot, it should be able to trigger this flow. Okay, let's see if it actually worked. Can you show me my Google Docs? So there seems to be an error. We can see that AI actually gave us some information. So the AI part works, but the Google Docs scenario that we created is probably not good. So I'll go ahead and click run once, see what's the error. So what we'll have to do is add a module here, and this module will be a webhook. So we'll say custom webhook here, choose a hook, add YouTube AI demo. So basically we can call this either through our AI or through this link to receive the data, but we hit save. We'll say webhooks, webhook response, body, array, save. Let's hit save and let's try again with our AI. Try again. And voila. So this time it was able to pull out the actual Google Docs from this folder for me with the links, with all the information that we wanted. So basically this is how we can train our AI to have new functions. So we just create our flows and AI will be able to call these flows for us whenever we need it. And as you can see, it replied in this format. So it tried to use Markdown, but we didn't actually support the Markdown. To support this, we can go back to our scenarios and And in our scenario, in the end where AI, we respond here in Telegram, probably want to parse mode markdown, save, parse mode markdown, save. Now I basically hit save. Cool. Can you send them again? Let's see if that worked. And as you see, this time the markdown worked. So this is actual links. So there you have it. We were able to build a whole system where now we can talk with our AI that will be able to reply to us directly with Telegram. Whenever we say start a new chat, it'll start a whole new conversation with us with the fresh new memory. And in order for us to train our AI, we simply add new scenarios on Make, whether or not that's adding something to social media, like Instagram or Twitter. Maybe that's sending emails, pulling data, scraping something, and much more. And all you have to do once you've created a scenario, in your Agents tab, just add a description to the tool and add it to the list of tools. And it will automatically work on your Telegram. So no changes for this template are required. So if you found that interesting and valuable, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Because here I talk about AI, cool technologies, tutorials like this, and generally my path in the world of online entrepreneurship. So I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.